This lesson is going to look at what the best path to protecting your data is. We're going to look at whether or not you should use an agent, and then specifically which agent you should be using. We're going to look at 3 backup options. That's the host level VM protection. This is for agentless protection for VMware, Hyper-V, and Nutanix VMs. Additionally, we will look at the agent-based options, where we have the file agent for both Linux and Windows, and the image agent for Windows. We will focus on good, better, and best. The idea being is that there are multiple ways to accomplish the protection that you need, and some of them are better than others. And we're going to help you understand what to do given some basic scenarios and which method would be used. At the end, I will be presenting a table that summarizes the differences that'll also help guide you as you make this decision on mapping out what data protection strategy you should use. We'll start off with a group of scenarios where we're going to assume that none of them are SQL servers, SharePoint, Exchange, or Oracle, as well as not being domain controllers. In this first scenario, we're looking at a Windows server living on VMware. The good, the better, and the best, we start with the file agent. When we look at the better option, the image agent will come in next. And then the best option is a host level VM protection. Now, the best option here with the VM level protection gives us the most flexibility and the most resiliency. We're talking about file level search and recovery, instant recovery, easy DR into the cloud, data copy access testing. The features with the VM level backup on VMware are rich and full. When we move into a Linux system on VMware, we're only going to be able to look at the better and best. So we'll start with a file agent, as the Windows image agent is not supported on Linux at this time. But then we'll also talk about the very best thing that we can do for Linux or any other VM living on VMware is to utilize the VMware backup and back it up at the host level. Next, let's talk a little bit about Windows on Hyper-V. Once again, with the assumption that this is not a special database or a domain controller, the good option is going to be the file agent. A better option is a host level VM protection, and the best is the image agent. You will note that this looks different than it did on VMware. There's a couple of reasons for this. The primary reason is that the image agent just gives us more flexibility on VMware, or excuse me, on Hyper-V. With the image agent, we can do granular search files or global search restores. We do not have that option with the VM-based backup. This also opens up the idea of utilizing replicas, where we can create a warm standby copy that we can use the image agent to make that happen. When we look at Linux on Hyper-V, it's going to look very similar. We start with better being the file agent, and then we go from there once again into the host level VM protection, keeping in mind that image level agent is not available on Linux. Physical Windows opens up a different type of discussion. With a physical Windows system, we not only need that granular restore capabilities, but this is where bare metal comes into play. So let's take a look at what our options are. So once again, we start with the better, and we're going to finish with the best. The file agent approach is good. It will give us everything that we need to be able to do a bare metal recovery, including driver injection for the restore into dissimilar hardware. The image agent also supports this and gives us the ability to recover into dissimilar hardware, but he also does things just a little bit more efficiently. He makes it easier that if we needed to spin up in the cloud, and he makes it also possible that it's easier and faster to spin up on the appliance. With the image agent on a physical server, we have a lot of the flexibility that we have when we back up our VMs by using the image agent. Physical Linux just has one option, and it's just going to bring into focus that we want to use a file agent that is supported on the compatibility matrix to protect a physical Linux server. Let's take a look at domain controllers. Still, once again, assuming that these guys don't have SQL, SharePoint, or Exchange on them, but we're going to look at them in terms of how many domain controllers are in the environment. So when we start with an environment that has multiple domain controllers, the option that is supported is to use a file level agent to be able to protect those domain controllers. This will ensure us the ability to back up the system state and the Active Directory settings, as well as the users, computers, and other objects, and then be able to recover them and not have to worry about any of the time settings or expiration settings that go along with multiple domain controllers. When we move out of a multiple domain controller, we actually start bringing back into focus a lot of the same strategies that we've already talked about. So if we have a single domain controller on VMware, we can talk about utilizing that host level VM protection as being a good, solid, and in fact, the best strategy to be able to give us that protection. When we move into a single domain controller on Hyper-V, once again, we're going to focus on better and best and good. And there's our file, host, and image agent, just like we've already seen before. A physical domain controller is going to take the host level protection off the table and once again bring into focus file agent and image agent as our protection strategies. Let's talk a little bit about Nutanix. So when we talk about Nutanix, we're talking about AHV. This is the Acropolis hypervisor. Very similar in what we do with VMware in that we utilize 0 agents to protect a host level backup. However, we do have to work within the APIs and the functionality that we have within Nutanix. So it just does change the landscape a little bit. Any VM, regardless of OS, if the customer is not utilizing Unitrends Cloud for DR as a service, we're going to look at the order goes file agent, image agent, but the best thing that they can do here is once again is a host level backup. So the important differentiator here is the fact that they are not going to be utilizing our cloud for DRaaS to be able to make this happen. If we move into a DRaaS situation with Nutanix hosted Windows VMs, we're going to start with the file agent and then bring into focus the image agent as the best option, keeping in mind that VM level backups for Nutanix are not supported in the Unitrends Cloud for DRaaS. So let's look at a comparison. Now this is a little bit of an eye chart, but this is a nice little cheat sheet to help you understand what you can and can't do. It breaks it down by the file agent, the image agent, host level VM protection on VMware, host level protection on Hyper-V, and then your host level protection on Nutanix. As we move from the left to right, we can see where the longest list of functionality comes in. Just from the quick, easy viewpoint, we see that the image agent gives us a lot more features than any other method that we have. That brings us down to kind of the focus of this entire exercise. How should I be protecting your data? Number one, you should look at using either a VM level backup or the image level backup. That's where we should focus. Now, when we get into other things such as SQL and Exchange, we'll cover that later on in the course. There are some specific things that we need to keep in mind when we do that. But in general, we should look to use the image agent or we should look to use a VM level protection, keeping in mind that the image agent will generally give us the most flexibility, including the ability to be able to spin up VMs protected from VMware and Hyper-V on the appliance. As we move through the rest of the curriculum, we will spend time focusing on data protection strategies specific to those individual pieces that we haven't focused on. But once again, think about what you're protecting and think about what the path to the best outcome is. And usually that's going to rest with the image agent or your VM level backup. Thank you.